Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Nordin, Education Developer here at Blick Art Materials, and we're really excited to show you this travel watercolor theme demonstration. I'm going to be going through a couple of quick and simple techniques to help you get started when you're painting on the go. Of course, it helps to have the right materials, which we have here today. We're going to be using a travel watercolor notebook set with Strathmore 500 series heavyweight paper. It comes in this gorgeous leather case, and they give you 5 Princeton brushes, which are Velvet Touch. They're perfect for mixed media, watercolor, painting on the go like we're doing, and it all folds up super nicely. But we're also using another heavy hitter, which are the Winsor & Newton Professional Watercolors. This is the compact field set. It comes with 15 colors, which is more than enough to help you get started and do lots of color mixing. I've pre-wet the colors here with a drop of water using a pipette in each pan, which can really help get your colors started. So if you're out there and this is your only palette, use an atomizer, spray, just add a little bit of water, get your paint started, and then you'll be moving right along after that. I've also, since I can't see the tube with the color, name of the color, I made myself a little go-to chart. And this is a perfect way to keep your colors in order. So I've just ran them from right to left, respectively, and labeled which ones they are. So that way, as I'm working, I know which one's alizarin and which one's Payne's Gray, for example. This is a really good exercise to help you get familiar with your new set and help you get started in general. Just get a little bit of kickoff. So you can see how vibrant these colors are. And for the sake of today's demo, I'm using colors on this glass palette so that you can see them a little bit better. So we're going to do some color mixing and get started there. So let's dive right in. We have 2 paintings we're going to be working through to show you these quick techniques. And the first thing that I like to do is start off with a drawing. It is optional when you're painting with watercolor, and you do want to keep it nice and light if you are going to sketch. To help you get a jump start on this watercolor project, and started with travel watercolor in general, we have to think about where it is that we want to be if we're traveling or going on vacation or just daydreaming about it. And for me, that's the mountains. So that's what we're going to be doing today. You can get this drawing on the bundle page, all the materials that you see here, and you can just do an easy transfer if you'd like by taking a piece of transfer paper or tracing paper, place the graphite side down with your printed out drawing over it, and use a pencil and use light to medium pressure, and you'll get a really nice transfer onto this watercolor substrate. Before we get started, this is a heavyweight board, kind of like a plate, and it's going to do a lot of work in terms of soaking up water and just being a heavy duty paper that is less prone to warping. So it's no 90-pound watercolor paper in here. This is some tough stuff. So it's perfect for these purposes. So I've tucked it into my notebook here, and I'm definitely ready to get started. So I have 2 containers of water, and I like to keep one container clean and one for cleaning off my brushes. I've deposited a couple of colors from this palette here, and I'm just going to go through those quickly. So here I have Payne's Gray and a little bit of blue. I've kept my analogous colors together, as you can see, so that I can have a range and depth of color as we work. So I've deposited that color here. I have, let's see, I have this Winsor green blue shade along with the permanent sap green and a little bit of Winsor yellow. There we go. And then over here, some different things to choose from. We've got the ability to make purple with our French ultramarine and alizarin crimson. So we have a nice medium purple that comes out of there. And then we also have this ultraviolet. Make sure I have the right color. Yeah, ultraviolet. And that's a ready-made purple if you want to go for that as well. So without further ado, I would really love to show you these quick techniques. The first one that we're going to practice is a wet into wet technique. You're going to want a clean brush and clean water like we talked about, and you're going to load up that brush with water. And we're going to soak our surface by mopping water on, and then we're going to reintroduce color back into those areas. So we do want to hit these areas where we see hash marks for shading with a mopped on water. And you can be a little heavy-handed and make sure you're using your largest brush. So that was a size 6. I'm going to move to the size 8 round, which is going to cover a little more area. Larger brushes for larger surface areas will help you move quickly. So maybe we start with the first half of the painting here. And I'm going to pick up this Payne's Gray. And we're going to mop in this color right back into where you painted the water. And we can pick up some blue. That can help to brighten up the area that you're working on. Work quickly. Pick up that Payne's Gray. Okay, where you still have water, go ahead and brush in. And I am leaving just a little bit of white to help us indicate a highlight down the road as we work through this. But we're going to try and get some color mopped on. Let's keep moving with this wet into wet technique. More water. And more color to go with. We're covering the largest areas first and kind of painting intuitively as we move this color into the areas where we need it the most, leaving just a little bit of highlight toward the edges of the mountains. Okay, drop that color in. And it will spread for you. You don't have to make 100 tiny brush strokes trying to describe line for line what your subject matter is. This is just a way to kind of quickly move, get a lot of area covered at once. All right, and we're just moving from left to right, making sure we're following that water. Because if you do paint watercolor often, sometimes you think, well, I've got to let that water soak up, or else, you know, my paper's just, you know, my color's going to run all over my paper. But that'll quickly turn around when you have the 500 series with a vellum finish that acts more like a plate. It's just very sturdy, holds a lot of water. Okay, now we're going to keep moving. We want to take advantage of the fact that much of this painting is still wet and workable. And one of the best techniques we can learn with watercolor is to indicate light and shadow. So using that wet into wet technique again, you're going to continue to reintroduce color where you feel shadow or shading is needed. And you're going to take away color where you think highlight is needed. So we're going to bring this color back in. And it almost reads as like an indigo because we've combined the blue with the gray to try to brighten up the landscape, the mountainscape. And continue to draw, realizing how versatile the round size 8 is as a brush stroke that can make a detailed and delicate mark as well as a broad stroke. And let's make sure we take advantage of where the painting is still wet for this wet into wet technique. And it's so fun to just kind of drop color in and watch it almost do the work for you. And I'm following these sight lines from the drawing that we made. Always helps to sketch. You have one extra slot in the travel watercolor journal for a sketching pencil. So you get 5 brushes with the set, the pad of heavyweight paper, and then you can drop in a pencil or a Micron pen, which is something we're going to use toward the very end stages of this painting. Once we get our big information established, and we're getting pretty close. Just keeping up, working quickly. We can do a little glazing to help smooth out some of these areas. You can just drop your brush into the water, help that color keep moving. Okay, and we've purposefully left some of this area white. Doesn't have to be too much. Use that glazing. Fill in that information. Too much white can make something look a bit undone. We don't want that. Okay, nice blue Smoky Mountains. I keep calling them the Smoky Mountains, but someone out there is thinking those are Catskill. And, you know, we'd have to Google it to find out. Depends on where you are. Okay. Now we've picked up some pretty good highlight, but just one quick technique. If you want to remove even more color, get that brush clean. And you can go back in and you can remove that color or control it a little bit better and redeposit it somewhere else. So if you want that highlight right there, maybe you want to highlight right here. Maybe we want one just right here. Just minimal things that you can do to sculpt and carve out those mountains. Now, maybe you want a little pop color. Maybe you're in Peru and these are the Rainbow Mountains, which is how I would like to think of it. There can be pops of color everywhere you look. And I think we can bring in just a little signature of color here if you want to by reintroducing some water just a little bit. We don't want too much color bleeding, but we can have a little bit of fun. Take some of these other washes, get them going, and sticking with cool colors, you know, we can just play around just a little bit. Colors that go together. We can always take a little ochre. Forgot to put that down. And this is just for fun. So, so we've got that pretty much wrapped up. We can lift some of that color if we want to, make it a little more subtle. So just another fun way to test out these watercolor techniques. Now the last thing we can do is we can go back in with a micron and we can bring that drawing element back in. So if you're out there, you're sketching, this is your thing, it's fun to bring in some extra materials. Again, you can just tuck this right into that little travel notebook, and just where you imagine there might be traces of that drawing, just kind of re-carving where those are can bring some definition back in. And it's as easy as that. We can do that here. As much or as little of that as you want. So that's the first technique. So wet into dry just a little bit, highlighting using white and highlighting using your brush. Now let's set this off to the side because we have one more thing to go over. And it's just as quick, if not just a little bit quicker. Depends on what type of painter you are. And I'm actually just going to remove this paper and I'm going to replace it. And we're going to work horizontally, just for fun, to show you the other side of kind of how this paper can work for your artwork. We don't have to always stick to one way of doing things, of course. Same thing here. I made just the quickest little sketch. You might laugh when you see it. So this is my sketch of Christmas trees. And the reason it's so simple is because we don't want to spend a lot of time focusing on it. We just want to get our thoughts down quickly. I'm not even going to do a transfer. I'm just going to make a quick sketch. It just helps to lay out a composition. So can you see that okay? The drawing? Okay. So we're just going to lay out where we want these trees to go. Okay, and they're holiday trees, or maybe they're trees that you would just find in North America or in Switzerland. Depends on your view of the winter and where you've seen trees that make you think of holiday times or gathering or anything of that nature. So just very simple, and I'm also keeping it very light because at the end of the day, this doesn't look like a drawing we're going to follow perfectly on point. We're going to make up a lot of this information. We might have to erase some things, if the pencil lines get in the way. So keep it light, avoid it altogether, but you can erase wherever your watercolor didn't go. And for this painting, we're going to use a couple of different brushes, just so I can show you quickly how different brushes can be used to make similar subject matter. But it's all about the brush stroke and getting a different brush stroke. So we have some greens on our palette here. This is the sap green, the Winsor green blue shade, and the Winsor lemon. And we kind of want a combination of greens, and I'm trying to debate over which one we're going to start with. We're going to start, at least brush-wise, using the 1/4 inch angular shader, and we're going to go into this more of a juniper color in my opinion, but remember we've kind of placed these analogous colors together so we can blend them and we can get a nice little variety of greens. And we might want more color, but that totally depends on your preference, but I think I would like a little more color. So I'm going to pull out more of this wintry green, juniper green, if you will. And I will. And I think we can go ahead and get started. Now, before we were doing a wet into wet technique, this time wet and dry. So we're just going to paint right on the paper. And I'm going to use my angular shader up and down to blade down to make that stem for the tree, or tree trunk. I guess it's not a stem when they're that big. And now I'm just going to use my brush stroke to describe the area that I am working in. So these are pine trees. They can have, blade-like arms, lots of different angles. Fill in that space in the middle. Work your way all the way down with that brush stroke. So kind of a blade-like, using it on its angle side with the grain, so to speak. And then fill that middle area in with some foliage, make them look nice and full. And I hope you can see, I know we're not done totally yet, but I hope you can see the range of usefulness of this set of materials, not just for the range of brushes, but the range of color. The range of the use of the paper, I think, is a very smart travel kit. So just a few more brush strokes here, a little bit different color, and you can kind of see, that's kind of nice to see a little pop of color as we're working. Okay, so there's tree number 1, done. If you want to add more color, take your color on your brush, just like we did before, and while it's still wet, you can drop in some extra color. And you can make dark areas nice and dark. You can add more definition, kind of a more of a stippling brush stroke mark. There. And don't focus too much on the details. Just get the idea of it. Okay, let's do the next one. We're going to use a different brush. This is our smaller tree, so let's use a smaller brush. I have the round size 2, great for that minuscule detail, but just like the 8 round, the round brush is going to do a lot of heavy lifting. So let's bring in some more color. I've pulled out, once again, the Winsor green blue shade, because it is doing a lot of work with this subject matter. More sap green. We could use a little bit of this blue that we have left. Let's take it from there. More of a medium green to start. Make that center line, get you started. This is a very medium. And then following the same idea, use your brush to describe the gesture that the trees are making. And it's just a slightly different shape and gives you just enough variation in what you're making. So if you're out there wondering about these products, go and check out the bundle page. You'll find the Winsor & Newton Field Compact Watercolor Set with 15 outstanding colors that are going to fit right into your palette and your aesthetic. But then also pairing that with the mixed media paper and the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes, it's a very nice looking and feeling and does a nice job kind of set. Okay, let's get these last few brush strokes made. Fill in the middle. Okay, there we go. All right, one last tree and one last brush, at least for now. I'm going to move back to the size 8 round so I can get a nice broad stroke. This is our biggest tree, so nice broad brush strokes. Let's bring in more color. Let's get this one with a little bit of variation and a nice broad mark. This one's kind of leaning, has a little bit of gesture. And the same idea. It's an abstract sort of brush stroke that helps you not to focus too much on the details, especially when it comes to painting something like a tree, where you feel like there's a lot of information to tackle and maybe you don't have to. Maybe it can just be gestural and figurative, but not quite literal. And we'll fill in this bushiness. Okay, so that's a really quick technique to help you get started. As you work, feel free to, like we did with our mountains, introduce a pop of color where you think it's useful, or where you just think it would be lovely. You can go back over, you can climb some of those details back in. The rest is up to you. So I hope you enjoyed this demo. I hope you enjoyed these super quick techniques and can put them to use in your practice. Go get out there, do some plein air painting, imagine where you'd like to be and paint it. And we look forward to seeing you in our next presentation. Thanks so much.